Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to a modeling tutorial. Now this is going to be a tutorial on how to do a wheel. Now the wheel that was requested was the SSR Professor SP1s, which look like this. So basically, this tutorial will be anywhere between 20 and 40 minutes long, I believe. You can do this in any modeling program. You'll just take the techniques I show you and put that into whatever program you're using. For this, I will be using Cinema 4D, and the time can vary for really anything, any sort of wheel that you use. For this one example, it took me about 5 minutes. It's a deep dish wheel. So yeah, let's move on to a new file here. We're going to go into our front view and put our proper image on the back. If we go into here, models, wheels, SSRS Professor 1, and you want to get a picture that is face down like this. I mean, this isn't the perfect picture for it, but it's relatively close, and one of the best I could find for this wheel. And then you just want to get it rotated up properly and get it centered up. Like this green line, I want to be right down the middle of the spoke. Now it's obviously not going to be extremely accurate, but it's going to be pretty close. Another thing you want to make sure you have is a side image like this, so you can get the curves right on the spokes. So we X out of that, and depending on what program you have, you will actually have a thing called polygons, and those polygons will allow you to do I know in 3ds Max it has polygons anyway. I don't know about other programs, but in this I just start off with a plane, and then I go ahead and I size it down to a pretty decent size. I actually start off with a very low poly version of the model when I start doing the wheel. I'm also not the greatest at wheels. So yeah, basically you want to just get something relatively around this size here, and then you're going to want to make sure you go down the exact center of the wheel. That'll help you out a lot when you're finishing. So I'm going to turn it into an edible poly here. Oops. And now we can mess around with it. We go here, and then we'll just extrude this out, and then we'll do this all the way down until we get to the center of the wheel, to about there. And then we're going to extrude the sides out. You can do this by holding shift and then clicking which side you want to select there, and then press Control and drag over, and it'll extrude it. Now down here you want to get the shape right, so just grab one of the points and drag it down, and then up at the top as well. Drag that down to get a bit of a curve on it. And then we're going to drag it over one more, right to the edge of the wheel, just like that, or the spoke, sorry. And from here we can extend this down again. And that's pretty much our whole spoke is almost done. We've then got to just add the little bit of the edge that is left in here. So what I'm going to do is take the knife tool and cut off right where it starts to curve, and then I'll go here and click Create Polygon. You can do this multiple ways, I just find that this is the easiest. And go like that, and then do the same thing for down here. We don't really need to do a cut here because it's already in the right position. Now up there I did make a triangle, but here we're doing a quad. You always want to have quads if you can. And then we'll just come here to the point selection, select this one, and move it out a little bit. Actually, hold on. We'll go into the knife, cut straight down there, make that into 2 polys, and now we have more of a high poly or higher quality of a model there now. And then we can do the same for up here. This is a triangle, as I said, which you don't really want triangles, as they can cause a lot of problems. So we can probably just do, well, how can I do this here? Go like that. That creates the quad there. And go straight across here. And then dissolve this one. I don't know, I'm not feeling that too well. We might have to go back and edit that later on, but for now I'm just gonna leave it. It shouldn't matter too much at this point. It's just when it comes to smoothing it, it will screw it up a little bit. So then we're going to open here, go into your symmetry. I'm sure other programs have a symmetry tool similar to this, and if you can see, it sort of mirrored it over here. So we'll turn the tolerance down to 0, and it splits right across the center line here. So that's why I wanted to have it right along the proper line. I'll just move that up to 1 so that it's a nice seamless weld. And I'm gonna make this to an object so that way we have it all together and one editable plane, just like that. So now we have one spoke done. And as you can see, there's not much depth to it, or really anything for that matter. So we're going to extrude the edges and make the spoke actually come to life, I guess you can say. So you can do this before you do the symmetry, but I'm just going to do it afterwards because it doesn't really make that much of a difference. I guess it would save you on some of the selecting. But here is where having your reference images come in handy. You can go here and we can see how the edge of the spoke is actually rounded. So we'll go back in here and select the extrude tool, click apply to see how it does here. And as you can see, there's some mesh errors. Alright, I think some of the normals are screwed up, so I'm gonna cancel that. Yes, okay. Those are the only normals. Alright, so you can see how these are blue and these are all orange. That means these normals are reversed compared to these ones. So we will select these, go up here to mesh, normals, reverse normals, and now we should be fine. And if we extrude, everything works out just swell. So we'll get the angle right. I would say that's pretty decent. Go into a new transform, and now we're basically just gonna go straight down from here. We can change that up farther. New transform. Bring it out to like -0 should be pretty good. And our spoke is essentially done there. And now all we have left to do is create the full circle, which is not the easiest thing to do. It's probably one of my most hated parts of doing a wheel, just because of how screwy it can be. So we're going to come in here, go to array. I'm sure there's an array tool on other programs as well. Pop out of here, and as you can see, it gives us this array of spokes. We're going to go down to 4 and then bring it in. This one actually works better than most of my other ones. It's almost seamless. I mean, it's not, if you had all the spokes equal, you would definitely have it all line up perfectly, but I don't really like to do a lot of math and planning, so it just ends up looking like this. Another quick tip we can do here is if we go out here and select this, for whatever reason it allows you to move the actual whole thing. But if you do that, oh wait, what am I talking about? There. You want to click on that, and then go to Object, and it allows you to do this, so you can line it up even better. Pretty much like that, actually. This one's almost a perfect fit, and I'm surprised. I normally don't end up getting a perfect fit. But as you can see here, most of our stuff lines up. It overlaps a little bit, so we'll have to clean that up later. But yeah, it's almost a perfect circle there, which I am very happy with. So we're going to click on here, Objects, and go Current State to Object. We can delete the array, and now we have these 5 spokes. So we'll pull these out of here, delete that, and now we come in here. You can see that it overlaps. So we're just going to want to get our weld tool out. We'll just find these planes. Okay, so this is plane 2 and 3. Take that off. Go into our points and then go to our weld tool. And then we're going to select. Okay. Can't really select those. I'm not really. Let's turn off select visible. There we go. So you're going to want to select all these points. Actually, you know what? We'll have to do 2 at a time. I believe it's Alt Q? Alt Q? Ah, yes it is. I think. I don't remember what the hotkey is for this. Let's see. MQ is it? Alright. So we'll go to our select tool. Select the 2 here. And then weld those together. Actually move that up. That doesn't really matter. We're going to be fixing that inner circle later on. MQ, 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 and MQ. There we go. And now we have our spokes welded together nicely. We will have to round that out and make it look better later on, but for now it is looking pretty decent. Not a whole lot of welding that we'll have to do in this one, which is really good, honestly. Then you're just going to come over here and do the same thing. 1, 2, MQ, MQ, or whatever your hotkey is for your program. And it's looking perfect. It's working out very nicely. And I don't have to do a lot of work, which is awesome. Pretty good wheel to do this with, as it's only 5 spoke compared to doing something that's like 9 or 10 spokes. The one that I had the most trouble with for this one was the Diamond Racing Steelies. That took me a long time. There was so much welding to do. I had 9 copies of that, and everything didn't work out well, and it took me a long time just to mess around with it and figure out how to get everything done properly. Another thing I should point out, I might have already pointed this out at the start of the tutorial, but I forget. You're going to want to like apply this method of modeling to your other projects. Basically, I've developed this by myself. I never really watched a tutorial on how to model. So the way I do it with planes and stuff, you know, that might not be the best way of going about it, but it's the way I learned, and you guys can take that and branch out from those methods there to figure out how to do it by yourself, and from there everything should be pretty good. Alright, so now we can work on this inner bit of the wheel, which is another one of my most hated parts of a wheel. We can go Shift, Objects, Connect Objects, and now if we go to our edge selection, turn only select visible elements back on, and we're going to go around this circle. Oh wait, what am I doing? I'm not extruding it yet. When you go in here, select a circle, and this will allow us to get a perfectly round inner circle here. So we're just going to scale it down. It'll be easy to see from this up version here, or the menu. Turn the quantizing or whatever it's called off. So we'll go with that, make it a little bit larger, And then we're going to go here and turn snapping on, scroll down to vertex snap, and make sure spline snapping is selected. Go to your plane and then point selection. And this is one of the most time consuming things to do here. You're just going to drag it down. As you see, it snaps to the circle that we just made, and it will allow us to have a perfect circle, because it's basically just taking a circle and wrapping the spline around it, or the polys around it. Oh no! Did those not weld? Ah! I'm gonna check this quick with HyperNerbs, because no, they didn't. Okay, we're gonna have to weld those again. As you see, it splits here. So that's a problem we're gonna have to fix before we do this spline snapping. If we go in here, go back to the selection tool and deselect that, select that MQ and select. Now we should, if we drag it into HyperNerbs, have no more tearing like that. So we'll have to do that for both sides here. If we go down and then select that MQ, and I'm just gonna make sure. Alright, perfect. Everything is working fine now. We just gotta go around and do that to all of these. Shouldn't take too long because there's only 5 spokes. But yeah, it's quite annoying when you have to come around and weld things all the time. That's why I don't really like working with wheels. I'm sure there's an easier way of modeling a wheel, but this is the way I've found, and I've stuck with it. Is that it? Yes, it is. Alright. So HyperNerbs basically just smooths the mesh out. As you can see, it looks much better with HyperNerbs on it. It's got some bad seams there because of the welding, or the actual coming together of the thing, of the separate parts. But now we can come back and finish up with this circle thing. So I'm probably going to speed this up because it's going to take quite a bit. Okay, so we have our inner circle rounded off nicely. As you can see there, we got this nice circle. There you go. Going now, we can delete the spline. And now we're going to want to go into our edge selection and select all the way around this circle. And then from here, we're just going to extrude it down after I get rid of all these other selections. There we go. Go down here, and another reason you want to look at your reference image here is to see how far down you actually need to go. So we're going to go into our extrude tool, apply it, bring this in to about there, and we're going to drop it down, not that much. We're going to want to get a little bit of a rounded edge on it. Now new transform. That looks to be pretty good. So we'll apply that. Depends how deep this is. Like, it doesn't look like it's that deep, so if we pull it up to around there, and then go new transform. Oops, that's huge offset. We want the edge angle to come in now. Way too big of an offset on it though. There, should be good. Do another new transform. And we're going to want this to be as flat as we can get it. About there. Just the eye, there's no reason to get it extremely flat. And then we can bring this in. Alright, so we're starting to have some mesh issues there. It doesn't look super flat from this angle now, so we can sort of adjust it more if we come on the bottom. Up to about there. That looks much flatter. And we still got some mesh issues here, so we're going to bring it back until that's gone. To about there, that should be good. Now we're done with that. We can go into here, close polygon hole, and select that. Now the problem with that is if you go into HyperNurbs here, and then you come down here, you can see all these little bumps on it. That's because this is basically just one big polygon. As you can see, we select that, and it's just this giant polygon. So we can go in here, mesh command, subdivide, and you can see it sort of really screws this whole thing up. If we go into HyperNurbs, it's now even worse. So you don't want to be doing that. What I like to do is go into the options for subdivide, HyperNurbs subdivide, and that usually works for me. Oh, well, it definitely did not work for this. So what I usually do in a situation like this is I tend to leave it, and I'll keep that as a separate part and just don't use HyperNurbs on it, sorry, subdivert. Or what I can even do is go into here, create a point in the closest to the middle that I can get. If we go here and get a point relatively close to the middle, and you'll see that it brings all these parts into here. Then we can go to our edge selection, deselect that, go into the knife, and then do a loop. And this will allow us to get some pretty decent lines going around here, which will just help when you're doing subdivide or HyperNurbs, sorry. Now if we go out here and try HyperNurbs, everything should look better. Perfect. You can see how much smoother that is, and it all works out brilliantly. I'm going to save this quickly just in case something does happen. Go back to our wheels, SSR Professor SP1, SSR SP1, and save that there. I don't know how long we've been doing this tutorial, probably around 25 minutes now. That's my guess. But yeah, as you see, everything looks decent now when it's in HyperNurbs. It's not in HyperNurbs now, but that's basically how you do the center of the wheel. And now we have to, I never do the holes for the bolts, because what I find is I can never get a good way of doing holes. There's probably, I've looked around for some good tutorials on it, and everything usually screws up when I try it, and it just makes the mesh look horrible, and when you import it to a game, it just looks really bad. So I never do that. I usually just go into here, go to our cylinder, and then I make this into a bolt. Now you can make higher res bolts than this, but just for a quick little tutorial for you guys, we're going to go in here and change the rotation segments down to 5 or 6, sorry. And then we'll go make editable, delete these, only select visible elements should be on. Delete those 5, go into here and select the top edges, sorry. And then we can go into our extrude tool, click apply, offset it right, and get the angles right. And you can just mess around with this and do really whatever you want. make some giant lug nuts if you even want to. It really comes down to choice and preference, and whatever you guys want your bolt looking like. We're just going to do a simple little thing like this, and then go to our closed polygon hole and do that for the top. And we have this really simple lug nut that we just created. We can also subdivide this top, even though it's not necessary, because we're not going to be smoothing the nut or the bolt or whatever you call it.